why didn't I captain player X? Or, why did I bench player Y? Frustrated, you lose focus and motivation when you could use your mistakes as learning opportunities like a top manager would. Don't allow yourself to get lost in that dark place. Below, I'm going to share some tips that FPL noobs, and maybe even some veterans, can use to avoid traps and stay ahead of their rivals. Tip 1. Focus on your first 11. In FPL, our squads consist of 15 players. 2 keepers, 5 defenders, 5 midfielders, and 3 forwards. But only 11 of the 15 can generate points for us, so focus your free transfers and budget on acquiring the best starters. Don't invest heavily in your bench players. Your starting keeper should be nailed on, offering good prospects for clean sheets and save points. Spend money here if needed, but buy a cheap backup. For defenders, pick 3 or 4 consistent starters with attacking threat and clean sheet possibilities, then fill the rest with cheap bench fodder. Midfielders can balance production and cost, so aim to fill all 5 slots with known producers. For forwards, invest in 2 top strikers and go cheap for the 3rd slot. Tip 2. Avoid excessive transfer penalties. Taking a bunch of hits every week to get all the studs you want is like getting into credit card debt to buy shiny new toys. Many fantasy managers take hits every game week to salvage their broken team and leapfrog rivals. Usually they end up net negative on the deal. So before you pull the trigger on an extra transfer, ask yourself if it's really worth it. For that matter, always ask yourself if even spending your free transfer is really necessary. Often the answer will be no, and you can roll it to the next game week for a no-cost double transfer then. Tip 3. Wait to make transfers until after the pressers. Player prices adjust after each game week, and many FPL managers try to preempt impending increases by making transfers early. But once your free transfers are spent, they can only be undone by taking hits. Each week, EPL managers provide insights on injuries, rotation, and tactical lineup tweaks during pre-match pressers. This information is more valuable than a 0.1 price bump, so it's usually wiser to wait to make transfers until after the pressers. Tip 4. Monitor injury news. While you can often afford to carry 1 or 2 injured bench players instead of burning transfers to ship them out, players from your starting 11 will usually need to be replaced if they become unavailable. I have already mentioned the utility of following pre-match pressers, but they aren't the only or even necessarily the best way to stay informed about the injury status of EPL players. Pay attention to the club's official websites, reliable news sources, blogs, and social media. 2 of our favorite sites for this purpose are Fantasy Football Scout and Premier Injuries. The link will be in the description down below. But of course, you will always find comprehensive team news and injury reports right here on our socials at FPL Pirate on all socials. Be sure to follow. Tip 5. Don't chase point. We all get excited about players who just had a massive fantasy performance, but jumping to buy players based only on last week's stats is a classic FPL trap. Instead of rushing into picking up a one-hit wonder, take a look at a player's long-term role and underlying stats like XG, XA, key passes, etc. This will help you figure out if they're likely to become a consistent performer or if their big haul was just a one-time thing, like filling in for an absent player for a week. Don't let fear of missing out lead you to bad decisions. Take your time and evaluate wisely. Tip 6. Use your chips wisely. FPL grants us 4 chips that we can use to supercharge our returns: Bench Boost, Free Hit, Triple Captain, and Wild Card. There will also be a link to the official site that describes how they work. The main thing to remember is not to use these powerful tools carelessly. Make a plan and stick to it unless you come up with a better idea or if something really urgent happens and you have to change it. Tip 7. Captaincy delusion. I know many will come for me on this. This happens when a certain player becomes the most captained for a particular game week. Just because everyone is going for that player doesn't mean you should do the same. You need to think outside the box and consider a differential pick. Now, don't get me wrong, most captains are usually backed by facts and current form. However, when the most captained player for a game week is chosen by 70 to 80% of FPL managers, what if he blanks? And your differential falls in a monstrous point total. Imagine the green arrow you would get. Sometimes, we need to take calculated risks. Tip 9. Keep your emotions in check. FPL can be an emotional roller coaster, but your decisions need to be calm and based on facts. It's difficult to not panic when you suffer a horrid game week. It's also hard to drop an underperforming player who happens to be your favorite real-life player, or sell a good player with tough fixtures coming up, but make decisions based on data, not feelings. Use the time between game weeks to cool down and refocus. Mastering Fantasy Premier League takes careful planning, research, and flexibility. By following these tips, you'll be better prepared to avoid traps and succeed in FPL. Here's a quick recap. Focus on your first 11. Avoid excessive transfer penalties. Wait to make transfers until after the pressers. Monitor injury news. Don't chase points. Use your chips wisely. Don't be afraid to take calculated risks. Keep your emotions in check. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, share it with your FPL friends, and subscribe for more tips and strategies. Also, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. And remember, keep those comments coming and follow us on social media at FPL Pirate for more updates and discussions. See you next time, and good luck.